Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. You are about to join a frequency that will open your mind, expand your heart, and activate your spirit. Thank you for joining Kelly Meehan, Spirit Baby Medium and Master Energy Therapist. Kelly believes in the power of the Spirit Baby. She speaks with babies in spirit before life, in the womb, and after life. She supports, teaches, and guides others to tune into the intuitive and mystical parts of life for greater wisdom. Join her in meeting your soul baby and build your connection and relationship with deep love and trust. Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio with your host, Spirit Baby Medium, Kelly.
Welcome to episode 122, October 1st, 2021. Energizing your body for fertility with deeper body intimacy and the skillful art of healing. What ways can you build a connection with your body? How can you tune into motivation? What ways can you let go of things that hold resistance? Are you open to get more intimate with your body for conception into pregnancy? I have a special guest here. I'm always excited by special guests, especially when I'm like, how do we know each other and what does that look like? It's Dr. Lindsey Matthews. Hello.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Kelly.
Yeah. And so we were just talking before, like, how did we meet? I know she has this, she's going to talk about her amazing work, Birthfit, and I was on her podcast a long time, but I feel like we were in the LA area, like of California and United States, of course. I think most people know that. When I say California, and like the birth world, there was something, we got connected, and then, Lindsey's always been on my radar. I've always seen like what's happening in there, and so, and so it's kind of like more now on my radar more than ever because of her coffee talk and her messages and what she thinks about this time in that world as more, I would say, more of a natural kind of doctor philosophy and as an experienced birth professional and so much more. But let me read your bio here, and we're going to get more into that in a moment. So Dr. Lindsey Matthews is a doctor of chiropractic, birth doula, NLP practitioner, and strength and conditioning coach. Lindsey started Birthfit in 2011 as a blog with a deep desire to support and educate all humans throughout the motherhood transition. Birthfit started expanding in 2014 and since then has doubled in size each year. Birthfit is a movement. Lindsey's core values are love, growth, freedom, respect, and connection. I love that. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, you've always been on my radar, and it's funny. I think we had an amazing, just really solid group of trailblazers of birth workers in the LA area. And I don't know how we all got connected originally, and I was trying to think where I originally met you, and who knows? But yeah, you've always been right there. I'm curious as to what you're up to. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny because in 2011, that's the birth of my son. It's like the birth of Birthfit, the birth of my son, and that really shifted me into the spiritual pregnancy birth world, and there wasn't a lot of it. And there wasn't even any birth centers, really. There was like 2 birth centers that you could like go to, maybe 3, and now it's just so gorgeous. There's cropping up everywhere. It's so needed. And I love like seeing people like you and other people that I saw 10 years ago that were just creating a foundational energy around their services to humanity. And now, like 10 years later, a lot of these women, I'm just blown away going, oh my gosh. Now you're doing, I'm just like, I love it. I love it. Because then I go, ooh, women entrepreneurs with a mission to like really change, how things are. And one of my dearest friends, I was hanging out with her the other day and I was telling her about Birthfit. And she goes, you know what? I was living in the UK and I think I heard of it. She's like, I'm pretty sure I know. And I was like, wow, like Birthfit's like worldwide, huh? Is that how that works?
It is. Like, I mean, majority of our clients and community are definitely in the United States. But, when we look at where people come from, there's a group for sure in Germany, England, some Spain, and then some others from Australia, and there's actually quite a bit in South Africa. So it's interesting, and I think they definitely, it's so interesting to hear just for me, even Japan. There's even like just the different experiences around birth in all the different countries and what certain countries prioritize and what other countries don't. Oh, like the Netherlands, that showed up. So yeah, it's been really interesting. And then comparing each state, each state prioritizes different things and has different resources available. And so that's been, the biggest learning lesson for me. Everybody does not have access to all the things that, probably we had access to in Los Angeles or, other big cities, like you could find in LA, you could find like your services, you could find a belly binder, you could find postpartum doula, a home birth midwife, you could find a chiropractor that's specialized in pregnancy, but you go somewhere else and, definitely those resources are limited. So it's been fun.
I do have to say, I have two questions for you. Well, one question for you. One I do have to say is that most of my clientele is not here. Mine is international completely. I don't rarely see people here at all. But also I want to, I was like, I've been around the world like you have, like all these, I was literally just going, wow, I've been to every continent but Antarctica. So who knows? But I want you to explain, right? But I want you to explain Birthfit. I was like, let's reverse a little. Like, tell everyone, what is Birthfit? Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, so I feel like my unique journey and background, which isn't at all that unique, but, it's allowed me to create the Birthfit umbrella, which I call it. And I went to chiropractic school. I became a chiropractor. And at the time, my significant other and I basically opened a gym, and we were gym owners in Los Angeles, so we were part of the fitness industry. And then at the same time, I was also a birth doula. So I had like these three different hats that I was wearing, and, I tried to keep each lane separate, but there's just no way, especially when what you do is so much a part of you and you're passionate, you're motivated about it, everything's going to blend together. And so I saw such a disconnect between, like I call it wholesome or holistic, feminine energy-focused training and the birth world, and then, birth workers, whether it be an OB, a midwife, a doula, and them having such a negative kind of image of fitness. And then the fitness industry really heavily leaned towards Western medicine, and, they grew up, people similar to me, pretty standard American. So they equated birth to the hospital or OBs or, pretty standard American. And I saw such a disconnect there that, this group was not educated on what this group could offer or serve or provide, and this group, right back the other way. And I felt like my lens as a chiropractor actually bridged that quite well, as somebody that understood movement and understood performance and rehab, because at the time I was serving basically some of the greatest athletes in the world and working on set with stunts and actors and on movies and things. And so I understood recovery, I understood performance, and, preparing your body for a big athletic event and then recovering. And, I felt like as somebody that identified as an athlete or a mover, I don't know if I would call myself an athlete, but I enjoy movement. So as an athlete, as somebody that moves my body every day, I don't want there to be, this negative image around fitness. And honestly, one of the first questions that came up in my work as a doula, especially as I started attending more and more births and got familiar with the midwives in the Los Angeles area, they would say things like, well, just my opinion is that she's too fit for labor, or her pelvic floor was too tight. Oh. And I was like, okay, I get where that question's coming from. But, if we unpack this a little bit, what it was some of these people were only training in one plane of motion, meaning they were only running, or they were only doing spin biking or cycling, or, you know, something just in that plane of motion. And they were, the mindset was not switched over to a birth welcoming of surrendering mindset. It was still this very much type A mindset, or I'm going to outwork birth, or I'm going to outwork labor, you know, and you probably know you can't do that. You got to show up, just let go. And, you know, that's what I felt like was missing in the fitness industry, was this more of a feminine energy approach where, you know, in the fitness industry, it's very much dominated by masculine energy, meaning numbers, percentages. We're going to do like 5x5 back squats each week and just follow this really rigid scale, when pregnancy, you know, you're called into this whole other way of being, and your body's literally changing every day. And it is impossible to follow any kind of structures, numbers, anything like that. So, you know, at the time I just started writing this blog and, you know, voicing my opinion. And, you know, I've always been somebody to kind of like, I don't want to say rebel or go against the grain, but definitely, you know, if you're going to tell me to go right, I'm going to see what's left before, you know, I commit to the going right. And, you know, people started vibing with it and saying like, oh my gosh, this blog really resonated with me, or I used these mantras during my labor and my birth experience, or I actually prepared for postpartum, and that helped so much. And so, you know, that was the start of it. And then I launched what is called the Birthfit Postpartum Series. And this was the other thing that I saw a major gap was there was no rehab for postpartum in our country. And, you know, more so now than ever, there's an awareness around postpartum and healing. But, you know, think back to like 2014, and, you know, there was, I mean, you still go to the OB or even a midwife at 6 weeks postpartum, and they're like, you're cleared for sex and exercise. And, you know, somebody that blew out my ACL, I had surgery, I knew exactly what I was doing 3 days post-op, 3 weeks post-op. I knew when I could run in a straight line. I knew when I could start to shuffle side to side. But there's no direction for postpartum, you know, and it's like, okay, you're cleared, but where's that really intentional rehab protocol? Or like, okay, I'm cleared for sex, but I don't feel like putting anything inside of me. You know, that sounds like the worst idea ever right now. So are there like baby steps we can work from? So yeah, that's when the postpartum series was born, and that's what I started teaching out of our gym. And it was 4 weeks, twice a week, and each class was a certain rehab movement that built upon the previous, and then there was discussion at the end. And, you know, I had no idea, like I was geeking out on the rehab movement and making sure that was all correct and fine and good to go. But what the community, the women needed was community and connection. And I could not have planned for that, you know, any better. And, you know, people, they would hang out and talk for like 30, 45 minutes, an hour after class, and I'm like, hey, the next class is starting, and these aren't new moms, like, are y'all sure y'all want to hang out? And they're like, yeah, they would hang out in the lobby, the picnic table, they'd go meet up at the park on their off days. Yeah, and it was a beautiful thing to watch and experience. And, you know, I'll say this and then we can go on another tangent, but I knew the community was necessary. I knew it was needed whenever one of the moms had experienced a loss. And, you know, I had no idea how to navigate this because it was still early on in my career. But the other moms were like, make her come in. We want to support her. And they brought her right back into that community and just freaking lifted her up and held her like nobody else could have done, and that just kind of melted my heart. And I was like, okay, forget it. Like, forget the intentional rehab. This is the community connection is the priority. But yeah, now there's coaches and leaders all over the U.S. that teach these signature classes. And so they do the Birthfit education training, the Birthfit coach training, and then they have the opportunity, if they want to teach these classes in their communities. And if there's not a Birthfit leader or coach in their community, people can join us in the online programs. And that's where we do connect, via Zoom calls, things like that. So it's like the next best thing.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, the Birthfit is like the Birthfit revolution.
Yeah.
It is like, and I love how you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say it is like the bridge, like the gap between the fitness industry, the birth industry, and medical professionals, or chiros, PTs. That bridge, I think that kind of hits all pinnacles.
Yeah, and it is so beneficial, the community aspect. I know you were talking. I mean, it's huge. Like having, I remember being pregnant, feeling kind of isolated with my first, and just feeling like crap. And people know this. They hear me in my podcast. I feel like in my pregnancy, it's the dark night of the soul. It just is. And there's a lot of emotional, physical reasons for that, is what my self-discovery has been. And I didn't have a community, which was a huge aspect of that. I moved away from East Coast, and everybody's just living in their own reality and world. And then you have to, other friends and people have their life, and it's like, oh, where's this community and connection? And, but I was determined the second pregnancy. I was like, okay, it's going to be different. I'm going to have to really push into my action of my body. And it's like, and it was literally, the pregnancies were so different night and day, but also, it's like building the energy around the physical and the mental and all those parts to go, okay, it's not just one or the other, but that physical connection with the body. I know many women come to me in pregnancy, and actually just recently someone was asking, they had pubic bone stuff, but they didn't have it with their other pregnancy. And it's a bummer because, to say it nicely, a bummer, because it's like, oh, the pain. And from my medical intuitive perspective, and again, this, you probably have more to say about that, but what I tuned into her, I was like, I actually don't feel like it's your pubic bone. It felt like it was like the stomach muscles that were higher up, and then there was something in there that felt like almost separate. And I says, she's going to go to a PT, and I says, they're probably going to tell you this, so it doesn't really, but I said, but it's higher up. It's like, it's so interesting. We feel the pain in one area, and we put all our focus there, but it's like, oh my gosh, well, maybe the psoas is hurting because of this, but this is where having people, to work with is like, it's like, oh, to get that and that strong body, especially in pregnancy. My gosh, it's like, there's a lot to carry in pregnancy. And
there is.
Oh my gosh. And then how do you, and I love that you're like, oh, it's not just, okay, yeah, like you said, oh, we're doing squats this day. And in pregnancy, you may wake up and be like, I'm freaking exhausted. I don't want to do that. Then what do you do? Then you're like, your adrenals are probably taxed, your hormones are shifting. Yeah. And there isn't a lot. And I know I went through midwives, so it's a little different. I remember after I did see a pelvic floor specialist, which is very well known here, but she also does a bit of emotional work around that, because it's like, wow, no one tells you, you don't go to the doctor. I mean, I hate to say that, because the doctor, I'm like, what are they going to tell you? They're not a pelvic floor specialist. They don't specialize in the muscle. They really don't. And so then you're left with they
don't have that kind of training.
Exactly. The training's not there, but there's not much option to go, well, then where do I go? And this is, of course, our own kind of inner self, curiosity. But I'm all about, and everybody knows this more and more, is I feel like we are our best internal doctors. We're our best advocates. And when we can get really clear internally, then we know when to reach out, how to reach out, and what it looks like. I mean, that's, and of course it's all trial and error. It's like experimenting, but I have so many questions. I'm curious. A lot of people that tune in to this podcast are on a fertility journey, and they feel a lot of them are doing IVF, which, that's fine. I call it creative conception. And some it's very valid, and some it's not. And I've called people out on that, you know, because I go, age, you can't tell me because of your age that you're going to go to IVF. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I was like, if you have a problem, I get it. You have a problem, you're working with something. So a lot of the women that tune in, you know, may have to, that is their only option, and then natural conception. But what could somebody do? Like if you can give like maybe top 3 areas of like fitness and emotional connection, what would be good for the body? Like, I don't even know. Is it like walking? Is it running? Is it like, I don't know. I know if you could bring it down to that level. Well, especially I would say even like IVF, that's a lot of intervention. That's a lot on the body. And I'm wondering what you've seen in that. Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked this because one of the latest trainings I did was to become a Mercier therapist.
Oh, nice. Okay. Tell everybody what that is.
So Mercier therapy is basically gynovisceral manipulation, and it's soft tissue work on your uterus organs, ovaries, reproductive organs, and it's not relaxing. It's not a relaxing massage at all. It's very intentional soft tissue work. And we address the front of the pelvis area, the abdomen area, side bodies, and lower back, butt area. Like those are kind of the areas we get into. And, you know, this has been something that has been on my radar for quite some time. And then basically I finally had the opportunity to learn from Dr. Jennifer Mercier herself. And she's been doing this for, 15, 20 years, and she practices right outside of Chicago. And she was a midwife and a naturopath, and then basically developed this technique. And the way I explain it in layman's terms is like you're warming up your body for conception. And you wouldn't just go out and do a workout without warming up or, you know, spinning on the bike for a few minutes, going for a little jog. You wouldn't just go lift 300-pound deadlift without, you know, doing some primers or activations or dead bugs or things like that, you know. So think about you're warming up your reproductive organs for this conception journey, for this pregnancy journey, this whole journey into motherhood and parenthood. And, you know, it's Mercier is 6 sessions, or the Mercier shared fertility journey is basically 6 sessions, and ideally you do them pretty close together, like once a week for 6 weeks. Or Dr. Jennifer, people fly in to see her in the Chicago area, and she'll do them back to back, like over the weekend or over the course of a week. But as a Mercier therapist, I do them once a week for 6 weeks, and then I look at lab work. I look at a lot of lifestyle departments and avenues, and so I really look at, okay, do you know what's going on with your cycle? And, you know, do you know what day you ovulate? How's progesterone doing in the luteal phase? Have you taken any day 3 labs? So meaning day 3 is like a really good baseline for labs, and just grabbing blood work, hormone panels, just to have that in general. And then I look at sleep, and I look at nutrition and nourishment and stressors and things like that. And I have this, it's a really simple document that I give people, and it looks like a pizza pie with like slices and, you know, the different categories. I have people like, oh, sorry, dropped my earphones. I have this pizza pie, and I have the different categories, and what I do is I make them fill in basically from the middle of the circle out and like shade each slice. So it would be sleep, physical fitness, blood and hormone panels, money, career, fun and play, romance and passion, and spirituality. So there's like kind of all aspects of our life, and, you know, just shade each slice in to where you think you're at in this moment in time, in this now moment. And some people will do like a little shady, and they're like, I'm like 20% in the sleep category. And usually this is, somebody that's either they're working, like crushing like 60, 70 hours a week, or they're somebody trying to get pregnant, but they also have a toddler. So there's that. Or they might have, they've shaded the entire career thing all the way up to like 90%, and they're like, I'm excelling at my career. But then you look at the other slices, and the other slices are like 10, 20%. So it's a really cool lifestyle wheel, I call it, to just kind of gain a bird's eye view as to like what's going on in your life. And, I check in every month, and it changes every month. And that's like, that is part of life, not everything, it's all temporary. There's nothing permanent, and just to have an awareness around it. But anyways, Mercier therapy, the shared fertility journey, will follow you for at least a year, like if you need a year after these live in-person sessions. And you'll be, like, based on your blood work and your hormone panels, you'll be recommended supplements and tracking your cycle, things like that. And there's a really high success rate with Mercier therapy and actually getting pregnant within that first year. And people can use Mercier therapy with, if they're planning on a natural conception, and or if they are going the ART route, the assisted reproductive technology route, because, like I said, it warms up your body, enhances blood flow, breaks up scar tissue. It's really great if anybody's ever had any kind of like pelvis, abdominal surgery, like even appendicitis, there's scar tissue left because of that. So I think it's a really awesome technique that, obviously isn't utilized as much, especially if there's not a Mercier therapist in the area, but, I would definitely look into that. And then going back to like your original question, with your body and tuning into things, like I said, your period, like getting to know your period, like this truly is your fifth vital sign. And I think that's a really great book, The Fifth Vital Sign. So tune into, I forget, it might be the name of it, The Fifth Vital Sign, but it's by a woman named Lisa Hendrickson Jack. And it just, that's it. I just saw it on the shelf. Goes through kind of like the basics of what we didn't learn, about our period when we first had it. Like I did not learn the power and sacredness of my period until I was probably in my late 20s. So that's a big one. And, it's interesting going, let's say if you're working with a functional medicine doctor or some alternative healer, or if you have a standard OB Western medicine route, the standard Western medicine route in our country won't even do basic blood work, hormone panels, or test for something like an MTHFR gene variation until there's been multiple miscarriages, like 3 or more. And, that's something like I learned early on with my functional medicine doc. Hey, I have this gene variation, which, things like coffee, alcohol, red wine, the good things, they're not really going to do you a favor. Because your body's going to have issues detoxing them. And so pay attention to that, just something to be aware. And then the other thing I would say is, if you are training, there's a whole kind of spectrum of movement and training. There's on one end, somebody that's super sedentary, does not have any movement in their life. And then on the complete opposite end, there's somebody that trains, 7 days a week, sometimes twice a day. And it's like, okay, where's that happy medium of movement where it starts to feel more nourishing to your body, where it starts to like call you back into your body rather than, you know, somebody that's on the far end of working out where they're go, 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 they train multiple times a day. They probably go to that pain cave and they get so numb, they're so detached from their body. So then there's, you know, on the other end, the complete sedentary person is they don't know how to feel safe in their body with movement, you know, whereas something like a lunge, that might have soreness, aches, and pains the next day, but is that a negative thing? Or is it just your body actually using muscles and waking up areas of your life and your hips and your low back and your limbs that have not been woken up in quite some time? So movement is key. And, you know, one of the things I let people know is the Birthfit Basics. They're a group of 15 movements and poses, and they're available on YouTube for free. And they're deep core exercises, range of motion movements, and then just basic poses like high bear for you to breathe into. And if you start with those and just walking, like that's going to shift you from the sedentary person to the non-sedentary person, you know, in a week. So just spending time with those. Yeah, and it's free. Like those are free. Yeah. Walking's free. It's like
walking's free.
I'm all about like free healthcare and like biohacking my way, like using as much free stuff as I can. And the other thing, like I tell people, okay, you got those two things. Can you add 10 squats somewhere throughout your day? And maybe, you know, you set a timer and you get up from the computer and you just do 2 or 3 squats. Okay, you set a timer, or after the next meeting you do 2 or 3 more squats. And then by the time it's 4 p.m., you've done 10 squats. And usually that turns into a little more, or you get the blood flowing and it shifts your energy and people get a little more motivated. So I love those little hacks. But, yeah, blood. I would say last thing on top of that would be, you know, partner, boyfriend, husband, whoever's on the other side, definitely, you know, get their blood work, get their hormone panels. How are they looking? Mainly because I would say a lot of fertility stuff, fertility obstacles, as I call it, excuse me, that I've come across in just working with couples is related to, you know, the gentleman, and the sperm quality overall in our country has gone down. And, you know, there's simple things that you can do to enhance sperm quality, like avoiding plastics, or, you know, even vitamin C will enhance sperm quality. You know, it's just looking at blood work can go a long way. Maybe enhancing, you know, organ supplements, things like that. So, yeah, that's a fun question. And I really do think there's so many things you can do, like I said, for free, biohack your way, you know, for $25 or less all the way through.
I love that. Yeah, it's so great. You gave so much
in the
amazing.
IBF route.
Yeah. Yeah, you gave so, I mean, it's like, I'm sure people are going to be like taking notes because there were so many good, juicy things in there. And I really wish you have me like even reflecting, like I knew, like I actually had, I had a fear of birth. I had like phobia of vaginal birth. And I knew why, because I had a pelvic floor injury when I was a kid. And I don't think it was ever addressed. It was never fully addressed. So that was my biggest fear. And it made sense. Because when I did go into the pregnancy and birth, it was disaster the first time especially. And what I realized was that working with a pelvic floor person after, and I don't know, it was probably a combination of the birth, but they said my pelvic floor was so tight. Like I was literally living in this perpetual tightness. And I was like thinking, oh gosh, if I did that, Mercer, I probably would be crying a lot, to be honest. I carry a lot in my body, and that's what I wonder about too. What is the emotional part of that? Because the vulnerability of that massage, because I did have, you know, Ellen Heed, right? She's a pelvic floor person over here.
No.
She's very well known.
But
she's very well known. And and so I went to her after the births of both my children because, and she did, I call it internal, like manipulation tissue work. And there's a lot of emotion in there, a lot, big
For
feelings,
sure.
but it was held. It was held by her,
Yeah.
and that's the most important. So I love that you're talking about, like, not even at birth yet. It's like, oh, I'm on this fertility journey, and bringing in that blood flow, bringing in that connection to just, at least you know that you're feeling good in your body, you're connecting with your body. And I do see a lot of women that it is a lot of times, it is the partner, if they're in a male and female partnership, that, you know, yeah, I'm like, it's the sperm, or this is what comes up energetically. And it's like, some women want to deny it because they're like, well, I can't control that. So let me come back to my body. But, you know, again, being our own health advocates and, you know, doing the exercise, doing the whatever cleanse or detox of foods. And a lot of women come to me when they feel like, okay, Kelly, you know, I've been doing this for like way too long, and I, you know, depending on how long they work with me, because it's like, okay, I'm no miracle worker. If you're going on a 10-year journey, like we'll see what we can do in this one session, but I will give you a lot for it. Like I'll give you a lot of information and then see what serves you kind of next to build from that, you know, physical, emotional, and more spiritual space. And of course, connecting with baby being, is that's the thing. Love like this, this going, like checking, you know, your the internal list of like, okay, but I you know, I do know a lot of women don't do a lot of like womb massage or like, you know, that's just not available. It's just not even like on the radar, or it's like people wouldn't even Google it. It's like, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
That's what's hard, right? It's like, but I'm sure in the Birthfit community, you hear about it, so it becomes a thing. I'm all like, 6 weeks, I want to like fly out every week. You could come do my womb. I'm like, oh, that sounds really good. Because even now, later on, because that could be of service even, I'm like past postpartum, but it sounds like delicious, really. In the aspect I say delicious is like, oh, bring me back into my pelvis and all this tension that wants to, you know, that's been held up now by 2 children that I have to run around with all the time.
Yes. It is.
Do you see a lot of people in different like phases of their womanhood, I guess we'll call it?
Yes, absolutely. And I was going to tell you, I don't know if you've read the book, The Body Keeps Score, but that came up for me as you mentioned your pelvic floor injury. And we carry.
I have one, the body says no. Is that Garba Mate or no?
No, this one is by Bessel van der Kolk.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. I have all those. That's I'm like, I have all those trauma books. No, it's true. There's a lot of work to be done in that emotional space. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing I was going to touch on is, we hold so much trauma, experiences, emotions, in our hips, in our pelvic floor, in our butt muscles, and it's like peeling away the layers of the onion there, you know. And I think like you're so fortunate to, you know, have somebody that does internal work. Where in some communities, you know, there's not even a pelvic floor PT. And we do get, you know, women in the groups on Birthfit that are like, this is, like you said, this is all new to me. And, you know, they start simple with just like an abdominal massage using castor oil, you know, postpartum, and just touching their womb space themselves. And, you know, for a lot of people, especially if they've had a traumatic birth experience, that's all they need, you know, to initiate healing and to allow the tears and stuff to come up. I don't think we've been taught or it's been celebrated to like call in, you know, a baby spirit or make a womb. And, you know, I'm going to do all I can to make my womb space inhabitable for whatever spirit chooses me, you know. And I don't think that's common discussion or common talk at the dinner table. This is a bummer.
I know. That's the thing. I always say, wouldn't it be great for you got your go to the midwife, go to the doctor, and they're like, so how's your spirit baby? baby?
Absolutely.
Or how's your energy? And, again, it's, there's so many different realities, it feels like, all happening at once. But I do know that there is that holistic wholeness reality, and I'm seeing it all the time, and it's beginning to be really strong in my physical world. I see it. And I've been building it for a long time, but more now because I'm like, okay, I'm done with the mainstream narrative or whatever that illusion is. That's not my reality. And I don't have to put my energy and play in that party. I really don't. And so this is where people don't realize they don't have to play. And that's self-discipline. It's self-discipline. It's like, and it's trauma wounds, right? It's self-discipline, but the trauma wounds of people. People react off of their inner children. And I think that's what all political things are. It's just a bunch of children crying about stuff.
Oh, my gosh.
Right?
Yes,
yes. It's just a bunch of children, and there's nothing in it. And so I pull my energy and I go, what is my service to the mission, and why am I here, and what is my purpose? And let me not derail from that and just stay centered. And it is. I do feel like in our world right now, it is a really deep time of quiet self-reflection, and that may take months. It's not just like the quick fix of like overnight. It could be like another year of that more inward, quiet, kind of separate. It's like, but what are you building? That beautiful, I feel like, light army inwardly to see what will come next, right?
Yeah, that's so good. I am in agreement there for sure.
Yeah. So I would love, we're coming up to the end, and I would love for you just to share ways that people can connect with you, website or email, or, I know you talked about YouTube, which is awesome. You have like offerings that people can begin to just, take control of their body, their own internal medicine, their own advocate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. One of the biggest things we believe at Birthfit, being an organization that touches, as we talked about, different people, different countries all over. But yeah, like you said, you are your internal compass, your internal healer, and, we're big advocates of you making the most intuitively guided, informed choices for yourself. And, by getting to that space, we cultivate that connection and trust in your body through our movement and fitness programs. That's how we do it. And there's birth education, mindset stuff, all sprinkled in throughout our programs, and prenatal, postpartum. And, we have different price points, free stuff all over the place. But like I said, you can find stuff on YouTube. You can join our newsletter. Each week I send out a newsletter, and there's usually we call it movement and mindset tips or a question of the week. But there's always free information in there. And then we have all of our online programs. And like the one I love, well, I love them all the most, but the one I think people have really been loving lately is our Lying In program, which is designed to be for the first 30 days after birth. But, it's designed because we live in a society where it's like go, 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 or you should be doing something. And this program is super simple. It just gives you one video a day, and it might be a breathing exercise, it might be a meditation or a visualization or a super gentle rehab movement. But, it's $15 for the entire program, and the program's 30 days. You can do it daily for 30 days. You can do it every other day and stretch it out to 60 days. But it's a super just gentle, intentional approach to getting that rehab journey started postpartum. And, people always say, it feels like I'm checking the boxes. It's like, yes, that's the goal.
Thank you so much for being here, Lindsey Matthews. It was wonderful connecting with you. And, of course, your contact information for those that are looking for more support at www.birthfit.com, and there's contact us forms, and I know you're on Instagram and all these other amazing platforms. Thank you again so much for being here. And I want to thank you all for joining episode 122. If you like my podcast, please subscribe, leave reviews, and of course, please check out my book. It's a journal, a sacred communication, a Spirit Baby journal, and of course, along with that, for the journey is Spirit Baby Oracle cards, soul answers from Spirit Baby, and learn more about services and other private and online programs at my website. Thank you so much for being here.
This is Spirit Baby Radio. Thank you for joining Kelly in the energy of awareness, love, healing, and soul communication. Please join the next episode at www.soulbabycommunication.com.